You know that feeling. It's got to be one of the most frustrating things out there. You go to bed on time, you get your 8 hours, you wake up, and you still feel completely drained. If you've ever asked yourself, why am I still so tired? Believe me, you are not alone. In this explainer, we're going to dig into the real science behind that feeling. And look, this quote from psychologist Dr. Scott Ehlers, it just hits the nail on the head. He'd spent years struggling with insomnia, and when he finally started getting what he thought was enough sleep, he was totally shocked that he didn't feel that amazing energy boost he was expecting. His experience is really the perfect starting point for what we're talking about today. Okay, so if just clocking in more hours isn't the magic bullet, then what gives? What are we missing here? We're going to peel back the layers on this thing by looking at 4 key areas. We'll start with your mind, then we'll dive into your sleep habits, your body, and finally, we'll talk about when that fatigue might actually be a sign of something more. All right, first up, let's talk about a culprit you might not even be thinking about. What if the real source of your exhaustion isn't in your body at all, but right between your ears? See, according to Dr. Eilers, our brains can be totally fried even when our bodies are physically rested. I mean, think about it. Sleep is fantastic for physical recovery, sure, but it doesn't magically solve the stress you took to bed with you. You can literally go to bed stressed out and just wake up, well, stressed out. Your brain actually rests when it's awake, when it's doing something low stress but engaging that lets you get in the zone and take a break from worrying. Without that mental rest, you're just going to feel drained, no matter how much you sleep.
And this is where it gets really wild. Check out this 2007 study. You had people with chronic fatigue syndrome who all reported that their sleep was just awful and totally unrefreshing. But then, scientists hooked them up to all the machines in a sleep lab, measuring brainwaves, heart rate, the whole 9 yards. And they found, get this, no significant difference in their actual sleep patterns compared to people without fatigue. This tells us something huge. How tired we feel can be a world away from what's physically happening when we're asleep.
So, even if you get your mind some rest, that's only one piece of the puzzle. The very next layer we have to investigate is the quality of the sleep you're getting. Because it's not just about how many hours you're out cold, but about how restorative those hours really are. And the key to unlocking that quality sleep? It's a concept called sleep hygiene. And no, it's not about how clean your sheets are. It's all about building a solid routine and an environment that tells your brain and your body, hey, it's time for some deep, restorative rest. Yeah, a huge part of this is just avoiding the stuff that completely wrecks your sleep. Now, caffeine and nicotine, those are pretty obvious stimulants, right? But the one that gets a lot of people is alcohol. Sure, it might make you feel sleepy and help you doze off, but what it's really doing is messing with your ability to get into those deep, restorative stages of sleep. And the same goes for a lot of over-the-counter sleep aids. They might knock you out, but they often prevent that crucial deep sleep, leaving you feeling like you barely rested at all. And here we have 2 of the absolute worst offenders. We just mentioned how alcohol basically robs you of deep sleep. But the other one is clock watching. You know, lying in bed, staring at the numbers, stressing about how awful you're going to feel tomorrow. That anxiety literally wakes your brain up and kicks off a really nasty cycle. But here's the good news. You can totally fight back. Building good sleep hygiene is something you can actively do. Consistency is everything. You got to train your body's internal clock by sticking to a schedule. Yep, even on weekends. Create a little wind-down ritual. Make your bedroom a sanctuary that's just for sleep. And hey, if you're just lying there wide awake for 20 minutes, get up. Do something boring and break that frustrating link between your bed and being awake. All right, we've tackled the mind, we've tackled our habits. Now let's get physical and talk about the actual fuel we're putting into our bodies. Because what you eat, what you drink, and how you move has a massive, direct impact on your energy levels. Think of these as the 3 pillars of physical energy. First up, nutrition. Food is literally fuel. If you're not eating enough, your brain's running on fumes. But overeating can also make you tired because your body's working overtime on digestion. Second, hydration. I mean, even being just a little dehydrated is a well-known cause of fatigue and brain fog. And third, movement. Regular exercise makes your whole body better at getting oxygen where it needs to go, especially to your brain, which makes you feel way sharper and more energized in the long run. Okay, now this next one is a huge deal, and it gets missed all the time. We've all heard of anemia, right? Well, it turns out you can feel absolutely exhausted from low iron long before a standard blood test would ever flag you for anemia. It's a condition called iron deficiency without anemia, or IDWA. Basically, your iron storage tanks are empty, but your body is just barely managing to produce enough hemoglobin to fly under the radar. And get this isn't some rare thing. IDW is at least twice as common as full-blown iron deficiency anemia. That is just staggering. It means millions of people could be walking around with a totally correctable reason for their fatigue, but it gets overlooked because their basic blood count looks okay. It's a massive, hidden piece of the fatigue puzzle.
So, let's say you've done everything right. You're managing stress, your sleep hygiene is on point, you're eating well, and you are still wiped out. Well, that's the point where we have to consider that your fatigue might be a signal for an underlying medical issue.
But before we go any further, we have to get one thing straight, because the words we use here really matter, especially to a doctor. Sleepiness is not the same thing as fatigue. Sleepiness is that feeling where you have the urge to actually fall asleep, right here, right now. Fatigue is that bone-deep feeling of being worn out, but you don't necessarily feel like you need to sleep. Knowing that difference is absolutely key to getting a proper diagnosis.
And this right here shows you exactly why that difference is so important. On one side, you have something called idiopathic hypersomnia. Its main symptom is overwhelming sleepiness, that constant urge to sleep. It's a pretty rare sleep disorder. On the other side, you have chronic fatigue syndrome, which is defined by that severe, debilitating fatigue. They can feel similar to the person experiencing them, but they're totally different conditions that need completely different approaches. That's why a correct diagnosis is everything.
So, what's the takeaway from all this? Well, here's your toolkit, your personal investigation checklist. You can work right down the list. Start by asking, is my mind getting a real break? Are my habits protecting my sleep or sabotaging it? Is my body getting the fuel it needs? And have I looked into my iron levels? And if you've checked all these boxes and you're still struggling, that's your cue. That's when it's time to take this list and have a conversation with your doctor. And really, when you look at it all together, it completely reframes that first question we asked. Maybe the goal isn't just about sleeping enough. Maybe this feeling of fatigue is actually a really complex signal, a message from our bodies and our minds. And the real key to feeling better is to finally stop and just listen to what it's trying to tell us.